Hi, this is Raven, also known as qwertysims. I've gotten a lot of questions about how I edit my photos, how I shoot them, how I light them, and I figured I'd just do an all-in-one kind of video where I talk about my process. Now, by no means is this a full step-by-step tutorial. It's more of a speed edit with commentary where I just show you kind of what I do. With that being said, let's get started. We're sort of going to gloss over my whole lighting setup because I do use the same exact lighting setup for every single edit that I do with the sort of gel light effect. I have the light set up in a room and I just drop it into a lot in Newcrest. So I may link to that just so you guys can take a look at it and use it if you'd like. What you see me doing right now is setting up the group pose for the girls. One of them is not with the other group because she is actually in a single pose that I had to position just right so that she lined up with the other ones. It's really 0 out of 10. I would not recommend it at all. It was not fun to do. It was a lot of trial and error. So now we're back to normal speed, and when we press play and unpause the Sims, everybody should, there we go into their spots. So now we can get into the actual picture taking part of it. I use that no drift mod, and I'm sure that makes a difference. I also use tab mode, and then I use the Sim 3 camera controls, I believe. So right now you can sort of just watch me struggle with the zoom because I always do, and just like a deer trying to walk for the first time become reacquainted with the zooming and the depth of field that it has. Funny enough, this very first shot sort of ended up being the one that I chose, but it's never a bad idea to get a bunch of different pictures so that you have more to choose from. I guess with this I did different angles, I did different levels of zoom, I used the up and down arrow keys to change the depth of field. I just experimented. From here we can speed this up and you can sort of watch me just get a bunch of different angles. Like I said, I think I ended up using that first picture, but I still like to get like a bunch of images, just because you never know. You may really like the first image and then the last one might surprise you, and that might end up being the one that you use, so it's always good to get as many as you can. I think this took like 45 minutes. The next step is really just choosing the pictures that I want. I went into Finder, went into my screenshots folder, tagged all the pictures that I thought had the most potential edit-wise, and then I brought them into Photoshop. What I do next is, once I've dumped them all into Photoshop, is that I have to pick the image that I want. And it's a very tedious process. It's like hide a layer, show a layer, hide a layer, show a layer, and just figure out which angle, which whatever is the best for your picture. Now normally I would do this in my head, but as a visual aid for y'all, I wanted to draw out what I would change. So first would be the clipping in her hair right there. Next would be I wanted to change the blue jacket to black to match her shirt. I also wanted to get rid of that the Little Bangers waistband and possibly change it to Simlish. I also wanted to get rid of that logo up at the top and maybe add some kind of green, some kind of streak to her hair because I felt like it just needed more green. I also wanted to just brighten up her pants in general to make it a little less olivey and I guess a little more lime, I guess is the color that I'm thinking of. I also wanted to make the yellow a little less neon and more like the jacket on the left, a sort of richer, deeper yellow. Next, I wanted to change her chest size because the hair that she has only allows for a certain chest size. She's a big girl. She needs a big chest. Next, I wanted to also get rid of that sort of clipping that's going on because she has the jacket on and it's sort of intersecting with her hair and making for some weird glitchiness there. I also wanted to make the violet in her jacket a little less so. I wanted to make it a little bit more, I guess, magenta or pinkish. Lastly, the jacket was sort of having a do I want to be yellow, do I want to be orange identity crisis with the lighting and everything. So I just wanted to make it completely match the tights. Then after that, it was just little things like that clipping that you see up in the left. So what I'm about to do here is use the Liquify Tool, which I know the assembly community is no stranger to. I'm going to use it to smooth out some of those really sharp edges. I like to focus on like hair. You see me doing the collar of her shirt. You see me fixing the clipping that happened in the hair, that jacket, and a lot of the times, I mean, it's not super duper noticeable, but it does make a little bit of a difference if you're trying to go for the smoothest effect, the most realistic looking effect. As you can see, this before and after isn't the most dramatic, but it does make a little bit of a difference. The next thing I do is I take the lasso tool and I start to fix a lot of the clipping issues that you see. So you see how her chest area is sort of clipping into her arm. I'll just take the lasso tool, even if it's a little sloppy, you can always go back and keep drawing over it like I'm doing right now. And you just sort of make a selection that sort of makes sense, that would fill in that space. And then I take the eyedropper tool and pick that yellow and I just fill in that space. And here you can see me take a quick detour because I forgot to drag my PSD in, which is very important when you're editing colors because the colors may change. You may paint something in gray and then when you drag the PSD in, it's in black. So you definitely want to put the PSD in first before you start editing because it may change the contrast or the colors of your edit depending on the PSD you're using. Right now I'm just I'm darkening up the entire image because my lighting tends to be really bright when I don't want it to be. I kind of like that high contrast dark kind of look, so I'm just adding a little bit more contrast to the whole image right now. We're going to speed this up a little again because I tweaked brightness for a while. Just couldn't get it just right. Alright, now from here I'm just gonna do that whole lasso tool thing that I've done a couple times. I used the lasso for the jacket, and then for the pink one I believe I used the clone stamp tool right there. I could have just used the same color brush probably because it's all pretty much the same color. Just trying to get that clipping in the arm to go away a little bit. Slowing it back down a little, what I do here to get rid of that clipping is I take the trusty lasso tool and I circle out a section of hair and I just copy it over. And then I resize that down to something that makes sense for where it is for the context. And after I get it positioned the way that I want it, I take a soft brush and I sort of just layer mask it and get rid of those hard edges. Right here I am going in with the clone stamp tool and just getting samples from other areas to try and cover up some of the issues here. I think here I tried content aware fill, I tried clone stamp tool. I think in the end I ended up doing the clone stamp tool, but you know, you know what? No, I didn't. I did the lasso trick again. I took a section of hair that was, and I lassoed it, I dragged it up, and then I just softened everything around it. It's a really good tip for changing hair texture, for copying over hair texture. I'll do this from time to time in the video. What you see me doing right now is I'm sort of just merging things to keep them a little organized. And from here, it's just a lot of layer masks. Right now, I am changing the color of the jacket by adding a solid color black layer mask and then putting a brightness mask on top of that to just bring it down because it was a little gray. Now I am covering up the Little Bangers logo because I do not want that in there. Now that I've gotten that covered up, I wanted to write Janava in the waistband of the shirt. So I'm messing with typing on the paths, I'm messing with warp text. Doesn't seem like it's working for me, so I mess around with a lot of different options. And in the end, I pretty much decide on this. At this moment, when I saw her hand clipping, I just decided that I was gonna cover that all up with a logo anyway. Right here you can see me painting like eyeliner on Dee Dee's eyes, and I ended up getting rid of this, but I'm gonna keep it in here just to show you that mistakes happen. Sometimes you change your mind and you just, you know, make up stuff on the fly. Gotta keep going, gotta keep moving, gotta keep, you know. Yep, So what I'm doing here is I'm just bringing in a little decal, and I was going to put it on Florence's shirt, but I changed my mind. So what I do in a little bit is I get rid of that, and I'm going to bring it over onto Cameron's shirt to replace that whatever that logo up at the top is. Slowing it down here for just a second, I actually liquefied parts of the logo, even though I already warped it. I wanted to liquefy it further just to make it look a little bit more realistic. So I warped some areas just to make it look like it was actually fabric that was being pulled. Slowing it down again right here, I'm just taking a soft brush at like a 10% opacity, and I am painting white over some of the highlighted areas and setting the layer mode to overlay just to highlight a little bit. And it's barely noticeable, so unnoticeable in fact that when I was switching it on and off like I'm doing right there, I left it off. So I think I turned it on back at some point, but for right now it's not on. Don't worry about any of this background stuff that's happening right here. I'll go into more detail when I do my portrait edit. For now you can just watch. This thing that's about to happen with the gradient on the bottom was actually a happy accident. I was gonna apply it to the logo, and then I decided that it would look kind of cool if there was some kind of gradient on the whole picture itself. So you can see me like cycling through all the different layer modes and changing the color a lot. And in the end, I decided on like this kind of purple that was coming up from the bottom a little bit, and I think it was in like hard light mode or something, but I really like how it looks. It looks really cool. This background was also really fun to mess around with. I wanted to add like some noise, I wanted to add some kind of texture, some kind of something to the background that looked a little like kooky and weird, but that one straight line just wasn't really doing it for me, so you'll see what I do, but I end up making it a little bit different. So I'm going to slow it down a little here just to show you what I did. Basically I took a rectangle, and then I'm going to take that rectangular marquee selection tool and sort of take a little chunk out of that just to add a little bit. You can add more or less if you'd like. And then I added noise here, and after that I went into stylize and then wind, which did absolutely nothing, so I closed it out. And then I had a little brain fart right here while I was trying to look for go up raven for distort and then wave, yes. And you can pause this to get my settings, but once I hit OK, it gave me this sort of little wavy line that I really liked a lot. And then I took the smudge tool and I was sort of messing with that, but I wasn't really feeling it, so I just undid all of that and I went up to filter and then motion blur, which you'll see in a second. Right here I did a 90-degree motion blur, and I just changed it to my liking, and it kind of just added a little bit of blurriness, a little bit of vertical blurriness that I liked a lot. Right here is where I start messing with photo filters, which I feel can really bring something together. Like, I felt like the background and the foreground and the little gradient, I felt like they all look nice, but that they could all be a little bit more cohesive. So I messed around with the photo filters, and I think I decided on like violet in the end. And it sort of made everything blend together just a little bit better than it was before. This little section right here is sort of pointless because I decided to rotate it to the right, and then I was like, nah, I'll rotate it the other way. But as a wise man once said, gotta keep it moving, gotta keep it going, gotta get it, yeah, like, yeah. Now what's about to happen here is that I'm going to select this with the lasso tool, copy it, and then I'm going to use the Liquify tool. And I actually didn't think this would work, but I'm using the bloat brush to, you know, bloat certain areas that need bloating, you know? Now we're just going to speed through this part real quick because what I did here I ended up getting rid of. What I tried to do was use the same lasso technique to cover up the clipping issues, but I just didn't like how repetitive and unreal it looked. So I remember that I had screenshots from Qwertysims, and I decided to take one of those where her hair was completely showing and bring that into Photoshop. Looks like I just wanted to clean up this little section before I got to actually fixing her hair. That's fine. I was really dreading fixing Greta's hair because it felt like an ordeal, but it actually wasn't that bad. For this last part, I just did the same copy-paste technique, and it actually turned out alright. And that's what I do for my edits. I'll give you a quick before and after to let you compare. And of course, after all this, I'm definitely not going to sit here and be like, oh, and it's that easy. With these simple steps, you can do this and this and that. No, this is definitely a process, but I feel like it is a process that is worth it in the end, and I wanted to share it with you all. The next part of this video is going to be me showing you how I edit portraits, which are mostly screenshots taken in QwertySim. When I'm doing edits, especially when I'm doing ones that come in groups like photo sets, I tend to create artboards so that I can put each group of photos into a different artboard and I can view them all like that. Now, of course, if you have another version of Photoshop that doesn't have artboards, you can just make a bunch of PSD files and like tile them or something. That also works. Right now I'm just dragging in the PSD for each artboard so that all my photos can have the same coloring. And here's the part where I actually start to decide which picture I want to use for which poster and crop them to my liking. By the way, I did not forget about Greta, the girl in blue in the middle. She will be the most difficult one, so I'm saving her for last because she has the clipping issues with her hair. This is nothing to worry about really. I am repeating what I did before, where I changed the color of her shirt just for continuity, I guess, consistency. What I'm doing right now is I am cutting out the white background with the quick selection tool and the magic wand, and then I am putting a solid color layer on top of my image. After I've figured out what color I want for the background, I always make a new layer. I set that layer to overlay, and then I get a soft white brush at about 10% opacity and just start painting in the background a little bit to give it a gradient effect. After that, I take this bright color, like you see that pink right there, and I bring up my opacity on my brush and sort of paint in a corner a little bit and then set that to overlay as well. And what that does is it makes a sort of light leak or gel light effect in the corner of the image that I like a lot. After that, I take a small white brush at like 10, 15, 20% opacity and I paint in some highlights just on cheekbones, on the nose, and on the chin if you can see it, and sometimes in the corner of the eyes. Normally I do this in the beginning, but as you can see, I'm sort of going back and I am liquefying certain sharp edges in the image. I wanted to experiment with using that same glitchy, wavy noise type effect that I had in the group photo and just repeat it in all my portraits. So that's what you see me doing here. I'm just adding the noise, I'm distorting it using the wave filter, and then I'm just gonna mess with the layer styles a lot until I find something that works for me. And here's the finished product with a quick before and after. For the rest of these, I'll just be zooming right through. I just wanted to show y'all what I do with them. I lost a good chunk of time here because my Mac straight up would not save the clip, so I'm sorry about that. Right here I just took 2 screenshots, one with the jacket and one without, so that I could fix the clipping issues easier. So the abrupt ending to that clip was my computer completely running out of storage. Here are the finished edits though.